In linear algebra, whenever we are given a data point, for example, we took our flowers, recall? So for any given flower, we were given four features or four variables. We were given its length, sepal width, and petal width, right? We were given four, and all of them were real values, right? All of them were real values, which means there were numbers like 2.3, 5.6, 1.2, etc. Right? So given any data point like this, we write a data point typically. I'm just introducing you some simple notation. We write the ith data point. We write the ith data point as xi, right? And we represent it like this. Whenever I say something like this, what it means is this. This is important notation. When I say xi belong to Rd, what it means is that xi is a d-dimensional vector. Okay, so a d-dimensional vector where I have so for example, I could have xi1, xi2, xi3, so on and so forth, xid, right? This is a d-dimensional vector, right? And remember, this is a column vector. This is called a column vector because my data point is represented as one column of data. So why is this a column? Because it has d rows and only one column, and hence this is called a column vector. So whenever you're given a data point belonging to Rd, what it means, the d part here means that it's a d-dimensional column vector. Okay, the r, so this r is written unlike a regular r. This r is written with two vertical lines and an r. This means real space, or this means real numbers. So whenever I say xi belongs to Rd, it means xi is a d-dimensional vector of real values. Here, each of these xi1, xi2, these are all components, right, of this vector. Each of these components is a real value. That's what xi belong to Rd mean. So given any vector, so for example, for a given flower, for example, let's assume I have a flower which is represented as 2.1, 3.2, 1.6, 4.2, right? So of course, sepal length, sepal width, petal width, right? The four features that we have. So when if you're not explicitly told what a vector is, the default vector notation is called a column vector. So if you're not told anything, the default is a column vector. There is also something called a row vector. And what is a row vector? If you have a data point xi, right, which is represented as a row, as a single row. For example, if I have 2.1, 3.2, 4.6, 1.2, let's say this is one row and four columns, right? There is only one row, the first column, second column, third column, fourth column. So this is called a row vector, right? So the default convention is, given any data point, if I say xi belongs to Rd, you assume that xi is a column vector. There is also a use for row vectors. Unless it is specifically mentioned, you do not assume that a vector is a row vector. The default representation is always a column vector. Okay, this is Rd, right? So Rd basically means it's a d-dimensional vector, and the vector contains real values. That's what is the difference between a row vector and a column vector. It's just simple definitions. This is nothing very fancy. We're just getting warmed up understanding some simple terms and simple transformations of data here.